Total devastation, carnage and deaths. From what I could see, as far as I could look and walk, I came across 200, 300, 400 bodies floating and on the side of the road. As we walked out, we spoke to people and we said, why don't you come to safety? He said, no, we're waiting, look for bodies, we're looking for our family, and this is our home and we're staying here. What struck me first were the number of people on the roofs of these houses. Any roof that was left, the more primitive type houses were totally obliterated. I think 95% of the houses were obliterated. Any tree had 4, 5, 6, 7 people in it. But these poor people were in a terrible, terrible position, terrible state. The flooded area is well over 200 square kilometers. And of course, communities live near the rivers. So I just expect, and I'm guessing, but it's well into the thousands of 4, 5, 6,000, unlike what the president's saying.
We're going to turn now to that massive tropical cyclone causing a humanitarian crisis in southern Africa. Take a look at the devastation there in Mozambique. The number of those killed could rise past 1,000. ABC's Ian Pannell has the very latest.
This morning, the desperate search for the stranded and missing. Homes smashed and washed away as desperate residents try to pick up the pieces. Now, relentless rain creating floodwaters almost 20 foot high in parts. Some have only trees and rooftops for survival. At least 200 confirmed dead, but the president here fears there could be over 1,000 killed by this Category 4 storm. In the small mountain town of Chimanimani in Zimbabwe, one woman's harrowing story of survival. Enya says, my house caved in and I was stuck under a pile of rocks. My husband, who was sleeping next to me, was crushed to death. And in Malawi, mothers and their children line up in large crowds just to get health care. Watch this rescuer swim to 2 women stuck on a pile of brush where they only have a few bowls and the clothes on their backs. It's been a week since Cyclone Idai made landfall with winds over 100 miles an hour. Bridges and roads washed away. A major dam burst as nearly 100,000 people wait to be saved. From above, entire neighborhoods wiped out. Now the help is only just starting to arrive as tractors try to remove trees and debris. So the needs here are immense. People need food, fuel, shelter, and of course medicine. As the hunt for survivors goes on, there are real fears of waterborne diseases such as cholera. In the meantime, the US has dispatched an elite emergency management team to assess what America can do to help.
The historic Midwest floods are getting worse a week after that disaster started to unfold. A new levee breach yesterday on the Missouri River forced the evacuation of the entire town of Craig, Missouri, in just hours. Officials now estimate the cost of the flooding in 4 states to be in the billions of dollars. In Iowa, the governor said she is going to ask President Trump to quickly announce a disaster declaration to help with recovery efforts. Don Daler is in flooded Hamburg, Iowa, which is several miles from the Missouri River. Don, what's it look like this morning?
Yeah, good morning. Well, as you can see, it's wet. This is actually Main Street. The water gets a lot deeper the further you go in that direction, but of course it's never a good idea to go wandering around flooded streets. And I have to tell you, it is really eerie seeing those street lights stretch all the way into the distance. As we take an overhead look, I'll tell you, much of this is from the Missouri River, which came rushing in here when suddenly hundreds of miles of levees were breached. And within a matter of minutes, Hamburg became a town submerged.
In Hamburg, Iowa, nothing was spared. The homes and businesses of the nearly 1,200 people who live here were totally submerged.
There's no place for the water to go.
Major General Scott Spellman and his team from the Army Corps of Engineers assessed the devastation from above.
You signed up to protect people, to help people. So how does this affect you personally to see this town underwater?
You're dealing with people and communities that are having really the worst day of their lives. And we understand the frustration. We want to do everything we can within our authorities as fast as we can to help them.
As we rode through Main Street, it was only passable by boat.
Hamburg built a secondary levee before a major flood in 2011. It kept this area dry. Problem is, the Army Corps of Engineers asked them to lower it to 5 feet high to meet federal regulations, and this flood was 9 feet.
It just rolled in.
Kathy Crane has been the town's mayor for 12 years.
This is a tough community. We're little, and we're not wealthy. We are not wealthy.
How are you going to rebound from this?
We're asking for help. We want to keep our businesses here. We want to keep our homes. We want to keep our citizens. They're our people. We've known them all our lives.
We have noticed the water has been slowly receding. I wouldn't be able to be standing here 2 days ago, but the residents are really concerned that with those levees basically destroyed, the town might be susceptible to even more flooding in the coming months.
Nearly 6 months after Hurricane Michael slammed into the Florida Panhandle, many people living there are still trying to put their lives back together. The Category 4 storm made landfall last October, killing 43 people. It caused more than $6 billion of damage. Manuel Bojorquez is in Panama City, Florida, with a look at the painstaking recovery effort. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. Just take a look around and you can see parts of the Panhandle look like the hurricane hit just yesterday. Some have not been able to start the cleanup. Others have simply left. And with an estimated 40,000 homes either damaged or destroyed, the most critical need here is housing.
This is our sauteed onions.
Shelley Summers isn't just cooking for her family.
Good stuff, man. Gotta try it.
She feeds 17 men, women, and children who live here, a tent city in her backyard for those who have nowhere else to go. What did you feel when you saw that there were people that did not have even a place to set up a tent?
They lost their homes and they needed a sense of security and a sense of belonging. That was the biggest thing for me.
I mean, she opened up her home to total strangers.
The hurricane left Lori Hogan and her husband Gino homeless. They were staying in a hotel for a little while, but when the money finally ran out, they found a new shelter in Summers' backyard.
Those are tears of gratitude.
It's tears of gratitude, happy.
We don't know where we'd be
If it wasn't for them.
if it wasn't for them.
20 miles away at Springfield Community Church, hundreds of families still show up for food boxes. Grateful, but many are frustrated by the pace of recovery.
Pretty much sickening. You know, it's just sickening how they're putting things first before they put people first.
Pastor Eddie Pitts, who is displaced himself, organized these volunteers who serve some 12 to 1,400 people every week.
There's still a need here, and in their eyes, you talk to them, in their eyes, they have been forgotten. And they will tell you that.
Government assistance has arrived. FEMA says nearly $140 million has been approved, the majority of it to be spent on housing for more than 20,000 people, including 820 families in temporary government housing. Like Lyman Wilson and Callie Holloman's family.
We're doing good, Lexi. We're here now.
They moved into temporary FEMA trailers this week. They want to have their own apartment, but rents have skyrocketed. They say the price of the sort of apartment they had before the storm has nearly tripled.
It's impossible.
Tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Just because
Some of a lot of homes are still damaged.
Panama City's mayor says there's little the city can do to control rents.
Understand, we had 2,700 units that were destroyed or are not able to be lived in. Less supply, price goes up.
Driving around, the scars of Hurricane Michael are everywhere, especially in Mexico Beach, where it made landfall. That's where we found Bella and Jack Sebastian, sitting among the demolition crews and abandoned slabs. They are living in a FEMA trailer on the spot where their 3-story beachside retirement home was ripped apart by Michael. But they're not giving up on their dream, in a place where the natural beauty helps sustain them.
this is where you will
That's
be.
where
This
I
is where
want
you'll
to stay. It doesn't matter if it's in a car, in a van, in a tent, in a trailer, in a house. It doesn't matter. That's never been an option for us. Mexico Beach is home.
And unless the federal government extends the disaster declaration here, FEMA housing will run out at the end of April next year. But the Sebastians say, like so many others, rebuilding their home will take considerably longer.
There are new concerns this morning about air quality after a massive fire at a chemical plant in Texas. Janet Shamlian is in Deer Park outside Houston, where authorities issued a shelter-in-place warning. Janet, good morning.
Good morning, and this happened just within the last couple of hours. We are 4 miles from the plant, just outside of the zone, where officials say they have determined what they are calling an actionable amount of benzene. At this point, there is a shelter-in-place order for all of Deer Park. Authorities are saying that people should stay in their homes at this time. They say the residential areas are not currently impacted, but the smell may be noticeable, and we sure can smell it where we are here. The Deer Park High School is just a couple of miles from that plant. Again, Deer Park schools have shut down, as well as 5 other school districts. Yesterday, there was a brief flare-up at the plant. That was quickly put out within about an hour, but again, those big black flames could be seen all the way from downtown Houston. Benzene is a known